This is about a larger systemic change about the kind of system we operate in.
I believe that this is the moment that we need democracy more than ever.
We need more people of all types of backgrounds to step up and offer their expertise to solve the challenges in each of our communities.
Let's do what we know to be the right thing and be true to that inner voice. I didn't ask to be treated differently, but I'm going to take it on because I have a job to do and nothing's going to get in my way of doing that.
Go get yourself a political home. You know, Vote or Lead would love to be that home. Black Voters Matter would love to be that home for you.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for leading and running as you are. And I have your back.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I love that song. That's Change is Coming from Sound of Blackness. It's a choir in Minneapolis, and it's really sentimental to me because it's a song that was played at Senator Paul Wellstone's funeral. And I always think about when things are really hard. I feel like for me, especially this week was really hard. This is a song that lifts me up. So change is coming, you all. My name is Pak Hoo Hang. I'm the Chief Program Officer at Vote Run Lead. I want to welcome you to our weekly Your Kitchen Cabinet series. This is the fifth call that we've had since the beginning of April. The first series, the first call was on direct voter contact and fundraising. The second one was on getting out the vote and how we protect our voters' rights in this time of COVID. Our third call really focused on communications, what voters were thinking and feeling. Last week, we had an amazing training on the inequities that COVID is revealing. And this week, we really want to talk to you all about how we can elevate our digital campaign in this really unprecedented time. You're going to be hearing from some amazing guests today, but we don't have that much time. And so what I'd like to do is just jump right in. Since we have started this series, we've cultivated a culture. And so what I want to do is I just want to talk a little bit about, can you all see here? I want to talk a little bit about the culture of this call. So first off, we really want to respect your time. And so we're going to start now, but we're going to have a hard stop in an hour. And so we just want to be respectful, but also bear with us then. Sometimes if it feels like we're being rushed, please know that not that we don't want to hear from you, it's just that we want to respect all of your time. Also, we want everybody to be able to participate. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but the way that all of us can participate is actually if we all stay muted. There will be opportunities later on the call where you'll be able to ask questions, but I'll go through the instructions of how to do that. Thirdly, I want to let you guys know that we do want you to be active and remark and comment. So please feel free to do that in the chat box. It's just right on the bottom of your screen in the toolbar. You can just click on the chat and then it will come up, and feel free to comment. And like Erin said before, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us where you're calling from. We are so happy that you could join us. Well, what's going to be happening in the next hour is that we're going to be hearing from some amazing guests. They're going to talk to us about how we can amplify the current digital platforms, how we can do better in texting, and just really basic hacks and tips for us to really elevate our game. Once our speakers are done talking, then I'm going to open up the floor and folks can actually ask questions by raising your hand. There's also a little icon on the bottom around participants. If you click on that, you'll see on the left-hand side an opportunity for you to raise your hand. Please do that, and one of the VRL staffers will unmute you, and then they'll introduce you, and then you can ask your questions. We'll do that just for a couple of minutes, and then we're actually going to assign you to breakout rooms. And the reason why we do this is because it's wonderful to talk as a group, but sometimes it's really also wonderful to have a more intimate conversation. And so you're going to be put into breakout rooms, and in those breakout rooms, you're going to go through a mini training with some amazing trainers, and I'll introduce them a little bit later in this call. And then when that mini training is over, we'll all reconvene into the main group, and then we'll adjourn for the day. So that is what we have in front of us. And I'm going to dive right in now by introducing our very first guest. Her name is Beth Becker. She's the founder of the Becker Digital Strategies. Beth is the founder of Becker Digital Strategies, which is a boutique political digital consulting firm specializing in top-level digital strategy, social media strategy, and digital training. So Beth, tell me, how can we elevate our game in this, our digital game in this time of COVID?
Hi everyone, it's really nice to see you all here on a well, what for me feels like an early Saturday morning, even though I'm on the East Coast. I'm not a morning girl. There's kind of three main points that I want to make sure just pull out for y'all real quick here. And the first one is to just remind you about authenticity. We're going to be talking in the breakouts a little bit about yourselves and your own stories and how do you build that for digital. But at the end of the day, it's about what's authentic to you as a candidate, or if you're working on a campaign for the candidate that you're working for. Who are they as a person? Is it normal for them to crack jokes? Then it's okay to crack jokes on digital. Is it not normal for them to crack jokes? Are they not very funny? Maybe stay away from the jokes on digital, right? What they see, what people see of your candidate online should also be what they see when they see them offline. Now, of course, obviously in 2020, we have this amazingly unique challenge for everyone that we're all staying at home. So we're not knocking on doors. We're not having town halls. We're not marching in parades. So it's really important to think about how do we substitute digital tactics for what we would normally be doing offline. So for example, if you would normally be doing some kind of a town hall or a debate, you can do a debate over Zoom. You can live stream a town hall. You can bring in experts to talk with you. I know that later in the session, one of our other speakers is going to talk a little bit more about live streaming, so I'm not going to go into details on that. Think about things like door knocking. We also have someone here who's going to be talking to you about peer-to-peer texting and how that can be a substitution. It's never about replacing. Someday we're going to get to knock on doors again, okay? So it's about substituting it in. And then the last thing I would like to say is probably one of the most amazing digital tools we have at our fingertips is email. I'm a social media strategist, that's my expertise, but email is a quick and easy way to reach lots and lots of people in a short amount of time. No matter what you're doing, you should always be asking people for their email addresses, but please, I beg of you, make sure they are explicitly opting in for more than a single use email. If you do an event and someone gives you their email address and they don't actually opt in for everything else, then the only email they should be getting from you is follow up to that event. Ask them to opt in to everything. Keep in mind when you're doing fundraising, this is my last important point for now, and I'm going to turn it back over to everyone. In the time of COVID, there are a lot of people out there that are hurting, not just mentally, not just with health, but financially. So if you're doing fundraising online, give people a chance to opt out of the fundraising part of your digital program and respect the fact that some people just don't have money to give, but they can give you their time. Those are my 3 quick tips for y'all.
Wonderful.
We'll be talking more later.
Thank you so much, Beth. And I really love how you are reframing this as these are just substitutions. So it's not, it's not the end of it. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. I really appreciate that. So in addition to Beth, we also have Shar Singleton on, and for some reason, there we go. Shar Singleton. Shar is currently the program manager at the Resistance Lab. She's also an organizer. She's a future farmer, and she's someone who's deeply passionate about building power. She's actually had over 6 years in labor and community organizing. And I'm so excited that she's here to join us. Hi, Shar.
Hey, Paku. Thank you for the quick introduction. If you want to go ahead and share the screen so we can get right into it. So as Paku said, my name is Shar. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I work with Resistance Labs. We're a peer-to-peer texting firm, and our main sort of, thing that we use to forward the resistance is texting. Next slide, please. So texting itself is a very powerful tool. Within 90% of people actually open a text message within 3 minutes of receiving that. And particularly in this moment, that's actually a very, very powerful thing, right? Because people are sitting at home. Next slide. So what are some of the benefits of actually using SMS, peer-to-peer texting? So you're able to send individual text messages to thousands of people. Essentially within our organization, we do that work with volunteers. So we actually have volunteers who click a button and are able to hold conversations with thousands of people, which adds a personal touch. Nextly, you're able to reach out to your current supporters or even identify new ones, right? If you have a list of people already in your organization and they've, said you can text them, then that's a list that you can move forward with, or you can actually expand, do targeting and find new people to add to your base. Finally, I think one of the biggest benefits of using SMS is really the wide range of tactics, right? So you could find new supporters, you could mobilize people to town halls, you could ask people, for fundraising help. There's a wide range of things you can do with text. It's really unlimited. But there are some limitations here. So the legalities of texting are really the limitations when it comes to it as far as the laws. The TCPA is actually the law that regulates text messages. And this law itself usually regulates phone communication and emails. But the purpose of the law is to obviously protect consumers from spam. When you use a peer-to-peer system, it actually allows you to move around that law because it doesn't require you the same sort of opt-in messages, or it doesn't require you to have a disclaimer. So we recommend that people use peer-to-peer texting versus application-to-peer in order to stay in compliance. So what are some of the final top line best practices? First off, you want to have the right messenger, right? If you're working with the organization or if you're a candidate, you want to make sure that you can partner with people who have name recognition to forward the actual positive response rate to your text, right? If people get a text from you, they know your name, they're more likely to say, yes, I'll do this thing. Secondly, timeliness is imperative. In our work, we do a lot of electoral texting, and we often see that candidates will come to us, September, October, and try to do 100,000 text messages. The problem here is they're jumping into the noise of all the GOTV. So we recommend that people start texting early. And then finally, I would say scale is one of the most important things because data oftentimes is not fully accurate. And the way you get around that sort of data not being accurate is to scale up your work. So I think those are probably the top line things. If anyone has questions or is interested in learning more about the differences in peer-to-peer or A2P, feel free to reach out.
Can I ask one thing, Paku, just as founder privilege, LOL? And when you say timeliness, a lot of our folks online have a June primary versus in our Democratic primaries where the district is Democratic. So for a June 2nd primary or June that's been moved primary, would you recommend starting now, 3 weeks out? What is that timeliness for primaries?
Yeah, for primaries, I think for any election, if you could start a month and a half out and you start with something like a voter ID or introducing the candidate and what they care about and why they're important, that puts you above the noise. So I guess the real recommendation is don't start a week or 3 weeks before the election, right? Start a month and a half.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shar. And you all, if you have questions for Shar or Beth or Zaneta, feel free to either raise your hand now or put your questions in the chat box, and we do have a staff who are looking through them. But last but not least, our third expert today is Zaneta Mann. Zaneta is the Director of Digital Strategy at Vote Run Lead. She's also a storyteller, a social architect, and a leader in digital media and communications with over 10 years experience in industry, education, marketing, and public relations. So Zaneta, what are some hot tips for campaigning in the digital realm?
Hey everyone, so glad to be here. So let's dive a little deeper into social media and what we can do right now. So to answer that question, when should you do it? Everything I'm saying, start now if you can. So I have 5 tips that I'm going to share. And tip 1, and this is for video messaging specifically, you're going to tell stories, right? So we want to make sure that you keep it short. So if you are going to do Instagram Live, if you're going to do, for the exception of Zoom, you could go for an hour, but if you're going to do Instagram Live or YouTube or Facebook Live, keep it for about 30 minutes, which is good as you start, and you can continue to create content. You should be consistent. So try to create a schedule. There's a candidate running now who actually has office hours, and I think it's brilliant. I believe it's every Wednesday at 7. So all the people in our community know to go to her handle on Instagram at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, and they will find her there for Q&A. here's a hack for Instagram specifically. You could find a co-host, right? You are hosting a show, so you could find a business leader, maybe a local bakery, if they have Instagram or if they have Facebook, and ask if you can interview them, right? So this way, specifically on Instagram, you will have their followers. They would have access to your live and to their live, so you may get more people to watch. So that's a strategy that you can use to connect to your community. And then most importantly, I've been telling everyone on the team this: you have to listen when it comes to social media. We all have something that we need to market or share or whatever, but you need to listen first. So utilize things like hashtags to find out what's going on in your city, state, your community, you know, whatever keywords is in your network. Tip 2. All right, so make the platforms work for you. So when you're streaming, again, whichever one works for you or where your community members are. So if you find that a lot of the local businesses are on Instagram, use Instagram. If you don't know where they're at, pick a platform and start, and you can stream that across multiple platforms. There's some software out there that you can Google and find out about, and then you can redistribute. So if you record Zoom, for instance, you can put your Zoom recording on Facebook, YouTube, so you can reproduce, you can redistribute, you can share these recordings all over. If you can if you have someone on your team who can cut up the videos, and you can have little sound bites all over every platform you want to use, that works as well. So you can have more content without using so much of it, you know, so many hour clips or half an hour clips. The next one is experiment and timing. So if all of you are familiar with D-Nice and the DJ sets that's been going on Instagram Live, it seems that D-Nice has taken over Instagram Live in the evening part of the hours, and so have 15 million other people. So make sure when you're doing something live or just recording and you want people to tune in, try to find a time that it's not super popular right now, because if you do anything in the evening, you are literally fighting with a lot of people to even get, you know, just 2 or 3 people to watch. So I would suggest maybe something in the middle of the day, on the weekend if you want, but again, assess your availability. Tip 3, and if I'm going fast, you can ask questions. I'm sharing this sheet later on. You want to use, tip 3 is use keywords and hashtags, really important. So you want to create a list. Find keywords that resonate with your community. So if there's special monuments, so I'm from Staten Island, everyone knows the Verrazano Bridge, everyone knows the boardwalk, you may want to search those hashtags. You're likely to find people from Staten Island using those hashtags. Same thing with businesses. If there's a special bakery or something, you can use that hashtag as well, just to search to make your list. For YouTube, you want to use branded hashtags. So that can be your campaign name. It can be your slogan, special words that people know you for. And then you want to pair that using 1 or 2 popular but relevant hashtags. So don't just use Feel Good Friday and it's Wednesday, because we know that Feel Good Friday is a popular hashtag. You want to make sure that it's relevant to your posting. Tip 4. You do want to invest in good equipment. So a lapel mic, between $15 and $30, you can find it online, and it just helps with sound. Same thing with the room that you're in. So some rooms have more of an echo, but you want to test that before you actually do any type of live events. You do want to get a tripod. You don't want to, you want to keep your conversation stable. You don't necessarily want to be shaky. So a tripod is pretty useful, and they have some from $10 to $30 online. Also lighting, and I'll show you real quick. I actually have one right, let me turn it off. I have one right here, and I don't clip it on my keyboard or my computer. I just kind of put it behind so it gives somewhat of a light to my background. And that cost me about $15. So that's good equipment to invest in. And we'll move to the last tip, which is tip number 5. My favorite, Canva. If you don't know about Canva, get on Canva. You can join for free. You don't necessarily have to get the pro account. Canva, you can make flyers, social media graphics. You can make them in no time because they have easy templates there for you to use for your campaign. WordSwag is an app for your phone. It allows you to create, you can basically turn quotes infographics. So if you've been on any of these social profiles and you know that there's shareables of quotes that you like, that's basically an app that they're using. You can use that as well and put all of your quotes or something you want to share with your community with using that app. Then we have memes. So as you can see over here on the right or my right, that's a meme. If you want to make a meme, so sometimes you may say, hey, how do I make a meme? This is how you do it. There's an app called Memes, and you can make memes. So Chicago's Mayor Littlefoot, she is well known for using memes, and it works for her. And as Beth had mentioned earlier, if that's what your brand is, if it uses comedy and you're funny, then use that and continue it. This would be a good help. And then lastly, for you know, if you have an iPhone or a Mac, you can use iMovies to edit your videos. There are tons of video editing tools out there. Just find one, and this you can use to cut down those videos. And if you do IG Live, this is not one of the tips on there, but just you can screen record. And if you didn't know, screen record your IG Lives. This way you can save them past the 24-hour limit. And I am finished.
Mark, I think I'm okay. You all hear me? Well, thank you so much, Danita. Now I want to I want to open up the forum for folks who may have some questions. So Mark and Amanda and Maria and Lena, do we have anybody who has a question?
We did, Paku, we did have a couple of questions in the chat earlier just about sources and the van.
Great.
Is the van worthwhile?
Yeah, so Zenata or Char or Beth, have you guys had any interactions with the van? And how can the van be used as a more efficient digital tool? And for folks who don't know, the van is the Voter Activation Network. It's an interface, it's a voter file, data file interface. Beth, have you worked with the van?
Oh, yeah. So a couple of things I'll say about the van. It is, in fact, a great source of information. You can usually export what we call a universe, which is a set of people that you're trying to target, and you can define that however you want. Really, there's all kinds of dimensions: geography, how often they vote, where they live, age. But I will caution you one thing. You can take that and you can use it to create what they call a custom audience for Facebook ads, something we haven't talked about this morning, but something we can talk about in the future. My Twitter handle's there. You're welcome to shoot me some questions on Twitter if you want. But you can't, for example, take it and upload it to your Facebook page and use it to reach out to people through Facebook organically. You can't use it on Twitter, for example. Usually the van is used for door knocking. However, we talked about substituting in, so you would want to export a universe of voters that you want to reach out to, and then, for example, work the resistance labs and text those people, because you can export their phone numbers. So it has some data, but not all the data.
Awesome. So I wanted to ask Char, I wanted to ask you a really, like, it sounds to me like a dumb question, but maybe you can help. So let's say I have a list, like just what Beth said, I have a list of, 1,000 voters that I want to reach out to in my Senate district. I mean, am I literally going to have to like type in their number and send it, type in their number and send it? What is something that I can use to make that process much more expedient or fast?
Mm-hmm. So outside of just working with resistance labs, there are apps that you can download to be able to do mass texting. And essentially some of those apps would still require you to have to click a button every single person, right? But when you work with firms, you say you want to text 1,000 people, we have a volunteer who could send all of those 1,000 text messages, handle the responses, let you know who wanted to volunteer, who wanted to, give money and whatever. But there are some apps that you could use if you don't want to scale up and you maybe not have the budget to kind of go over 1,000 people. But yeah, so WhatsApp is a possibility, but you would have to definitely click a button for every single person. You also have the option of broadcast texting, which is a little bit more complicated. But yeah, so it's possible. WhatsApp is a thing. I would recommend Googling other free texting apps that you can use.
Wonderful. Thank you, Char. Mark and Marlena, do we have any other questions? Folks raising their hands?
We've got a bunch on chat. Maybe this one's for Zenata. It's sort of like IG novices. Everybody's on IG. How many times do I post on IG? So we'd love to hear a little more about that and the frequency.
So definitely right now in this period, and it may go against what industry standard is saying, but you need to create as much content as you can. Whether it's being absorbed right now, you need to create content. So with Instagram, I would say no more than 4 to 5 a day. But you want to utilize Instagram stories, which I don't know if you have some people, I have some people that put hundreds of different stories on and I'm just flashing through it, right? So that seems to be acceptable, but I would say 4 to 5 times with your story post, and then with the stories themselves, which, little circles up there, you can put an endless amount. But what you also want to do is share other content, so not just yours. So even in your 4 to 5 posts, you may want to reshare someone's event. If you have a partner agency, maybe that bakery that you interviewed, right? And you're saying they're open, they're doing takeout. So just that type of promotion as well. But 4 to 5, and don't overdo it with the hashtags, because Instagram will shadow ban you, which basically means none of your hashtags will show up if you abuse hashtags. They have a system to figure that out. So use hashtags appropriately.
What is an Instagram story?
Okay, I feel like I have to show more. So Instagram post itself would be, if you can see it, is just like the static post there that you put there. And then with all the circles up here, that's a story. So you see the camera, and it gives you millions of options to post whatever. You could post videos, you can create memes, you could put on lipstick when not really put on lipstick. So they have makeup tools there, and you could just have fun. And it stays on for about 24 hours. And that's the same thing with your IG lives. So you could just post whatever you want.
So Beth, I have a question for you, because I know you and I were talking about this. We are given a bunch of platforms, right? Like Instagram Live, Facebook Live, YouTube, yada, yada. Can you give us some recommendations for what is appropriate in each of these platforms? So when should I use Facebook? When should I use Instagram? When should I use YouTube?
How many days do we have to do that answer? How about if I try and give you the top line short version, which is, you don't need to be on all the platforms, nor should you be. Nobody has that capacity. There's 265 social media platforms, y'all. Okay? Think about, where are the voters and the people that you are trying to reach, and which platforms are they using? Older folks, you probably want to stick to Facebook. Are you trying to reach the press? You're going to want to look at Twitter. Are you looking at younger folks? You're going to want to look at Instagram, Messenger. Texting has no age limit. Everyone looks at their text messages. Email, everyone looks at their email. Think about who your audience is before you pick a channel, because you don't have the capacity to do all the channels. And you shouldn't do a channel if you're not going to do it well.
That's really important to know, that value is more valuable than just tons of junk.
Yeah, flooding the air with just things. My rule of thumb, I typed it in the chat a minute ago, is if you have something to say it. And if you don't, shh. Right? Because not everything is about you, and everything needs to be about you. We've all seen the examples of companies that put their foot in it. I have a hard drive full of candidates that said things they probably never should have said, quite frankly. If you have something to say it. Don't be shy about it. Doesn't matter what time of day it is. People are online 24/7, especially right now. Yeah. But the way these algorithms work on the platforms, nobody's going to see your content till they log in anyway.
Right. And I do love what Danita, you were saying, how maybe by amplifying someone else, you're actually amplifying yourself, and you're introducing yourself to all of those folks' followers, right?
Absolutely. Surrogates are key.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, we have a question from Joy.
Hi, girl.
I'm on a webinar.
Oh, all right. I just wanted to show you that Michael finally got on. All right.
You want to ask your question?
Joy.
I gotta look up webinar. We're all gonna hang on.
Before Joy goes, we'll wait for you 1 second, Joy. One of the things we ran into at Vote Run Lead is the political ads and being verified. Can you just talk a little bit about that, Zaneta, for folks who are starting to think about putting $50, $20 towards?
Definitely. So you want to make sure that your account is verified, and let's say you have created like a business page or something, Facebook won't allow you to become verified unless there's a human that verifies it. So we actually had to send in, pictures of my driver's license and stuff just so they can say, oh, you're a human. And then they mail you a code and you type the code in and then you can start the process. You also need to make sure that you have a disclaimer. So you want to think about that as well, whatever that is for your campaign or business. Have a disclaimer. Make sure you have someone who is willing to be that person that can be verified, and get that started now, because I'm still waiting for a lot of stuff. So it takes a little bit. So if you can get started on that, take care of that.
Joy, you ready to ask your question?
Yes, I didn't want to ask the question. I just wanted to say that one of the best things that I did for my two candidates was to, as far as social media goes, was to get an intern, a college intern who is a media major. And they are just running the social media. They know all about the algorithms. They know all of it. They know how to reach different demographics and your target. They know it all. And we don't have to do anything. So that was the best thing for social media for us. It's like us older folks who know nothing, it's in their hands and we love it.
Wonderful. So that's a good reminder that that's an important tool set. So we should develop people with that tool set. And Shar, I was wondering if I could ask you one final question, which is, so I'm sending out a text, right? How many sentences should it be? Like, what are the best practices about the design of the text so that it stays with people?
That's a great question. And we have found that it is best to be direct and short. If you send somebody a paragraph, we doubt they're going to read it. We've had the experience to find out that they do not read the paragraph. So we recommend keeping your text between 160 characters, at max 320 characters. This also allows for the best deliverability as far as how it looks on the cell phone when it's delivered. If you go above 360 characters, you may end up sending someone 5 different text messages, which could be like weird and annoying. So keep it between 160 to 320 characters max. And as far as what it should say, I think try to mimic the conversations that you would have on doors within 160 to 320 characters, if that makes sense. That personal touch. Hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm working with activists for the amazing environment. What's going, you want to have that sort of personal touch that you would have on the doors still in the text messages. So one of the biggest takeaways I would give people is treat text like you would treat the field. And that's
So we shouldn't be sending like memes or pictures and things like that to voters via text.
That's awesome. That's actually another great question. And I didn't add that. We get really high response rates when we add a photo along with those 160 characters, FYI. But it is a little bit different. The SMS rules are kind of complicated. You're now dipping into MMS and it's a little different when you use photos, but yeah, you can use photos. It will increase your response rates, but you still want to treat it like the field.
Wonderful.
I have one last question, Paco. In thinking about budgeting around this, if you're a larger campaign, say your state senate or state house, right? Would a recommendation be to put some money behind this? And if so, how much with text messaging? If you're a smaller campaign, just for the folks, city council versus say a state house, an expensive.
So typically with a city council race, I would recommend texting. It depends on the city. It really depends on your district, how many people in your district you need to talk to win. Have you identified your win numbers and what those people look like and where they live? That's kind of the first thing we would need to know to determine sort of scale and volume. But just as a, kind of example here, I've done work with city council candidates anywhere between 5,000 and 15,000 text messages for around $2,000, which isn't actually that bad because at the end of the day, we netted them hundreds of new supporters, right? Hundreds of new volunteers and potentially hundreds of new votes. But when you're getting up into sort of the state house, state senate sort of races, those are a bit bigger. I would not recommend trying to send 15,000 text messages and expecting to win in a state house race. I would say more so close to 50 to 100,000 in the district of people you've identified who could potentially be in your base. And something like that, we do price by volume. And it's usually anywhere between 5 cents to 8 cents a text.
Great. Beth and Shar and Zaneta, like, thank you so much for your candidness and just like the practicality of your advice, honestly. So you all, Zaneta has a wonderful tip sheet that we're going to be sending to you, and we might have dropped it already in chat, but we'll definitely send it in our follow-up survey if you all could fill that out and look at Zaneta's tip sheet.